Hello and welcome to the Point to Rise show. This is your host, Susanne Puerschel, former international ballerina that found her passion in mindset, business, and technology, and is today the founder of Rise Media. It is my purpose to use all the experiences of my past to create a better, financially sustainable future for the performing arts industry. And that starts with every single one of us. I believe that being you is your superpower. And I am here to guide you, empower you, inspire you, and give you all the resources you need to rise above what you think you're capable of. Every week, I'll bring you 3 shows featuring guests, collaboration, and mini episodes to ensure that you have the support in your journey as a performer. I want you to know that you are not alone. Stop chasing and start creating. Your success starts now, here with you. So let's go. And we're back. Cultivating Happier Dancers. I'm so glad to be back with the 2 of you. So here's what's going to happen. Every time we're on here, on air, we're going to start with a story from our days in the studio. One of us is going to back these experience and to learn up with science, and we're giving you really clear direction on how you can actually implement it in your own studio, in your own life. Downloadable PDFs that you find in the show notes here in this podcast. And if you have subscribed to the email list of Danscend, you will find downloadable actions that you can actually implement in your own life, help your students and help yourself. So today, we are going to talk about the impact of dance studio dynamics. And Michelle, you're going to kick us off with a story.
So I have maybe not the best dance studio dynamic stories. So one of the dance studios I grew up in was a ballet studio where we did performances every few months, and it was not a mentally, emotionally safe space. And this was created largely by the director of the dance company. It was a little small dance company attached to the studio. And we were all so scared of our teacher. She would walk around and she would, throw insults, and she called me tutu butt. And it was it just all of these kind of really terrible things that really didn't seem terrible at the time because it was kind of a joke. But as I speak to some of those dancers now, those little small things got stuck in our minds. But more than anything, because we were afraid of our teacher, and because she set up this world where we needed to please her, and we had to, a compliment from her was anything. It was everything. All you wanted to do was get the attention of such and such, our teacher. That it took our minds away from learning, and it took my mind away from, trying to focus on my turnout or trying to focus on, my placement or whatever. And instead I was focused on, don't make Miss such and such mad because she's not going to cast you as Merlitons and Nutcracker, or, don't, if you don't get her attention today, then you're not worth anything and you're a terrible person. And so in creating a not so safe space, it changed our mindset in the dance studio from being a learning mindset to something like, hey, fail, try something and be silly, to a little bit more of kind of a fight, flight, or freeze, like a scared mindset. And because of that, I lost a lot of time where I could have been learning and improving and experimenting and failing. And it kind of made me sad, because I think more than anything, my teacher probably just didn't know how to make a dance studio really supportive. So I think that's why we're here. We're here to talk about that.
I have to catch my breath, and not only because I can relate to that, because it's so sad. Because we're we go into dance because we want to be happy and we want to express ourselves and we want to connect with everything that's beautiful and is about beauty. And it's being pulled out of us through fear and disgrace and disrespect. So I'm sorry you had to go through that. What we're talking about, so when you were talking, so here is what came really to mind first. When we're talking about science, right? Attention flows where energy goes, meaning that if we're putting our intention into helping people to rise up and to get better, that's exactly what we're going to see. If we are putting our intention into pleasing somebody else in order to be seen, that's what we're going to see. As you said, we're going to lose time. We're going to lose energy. We're going to be tired all the time. We're not going to be our very best. We're not going to go show up as our very best self-serve version. So I actually did a little bit of research when we're talking about dynamics, because it has everything to do with physics, right? And I'm going to read something to you. So a dynamics analysis is what allows one to predict the motion of an object or objects under the influence of different forces, such as gravity or a spring. It can be used to predict the motion of planets in a solar system or the time it takes for a car to brake to a full stop. Dynamics is a very important element in music, for example. Without it, all of our music will be flat and boring. Dynamics in dance is how dancers move. They help to accentuate the music you're dancing to, match the ebb and flow of the tempo, and add a performance aspect to dance. Now, if we're translating that into the way we're actually talking to our dancers, our own dynamics, our own energy will always be flowing out and be moving into whoever and whatever we are touching or associating with. And this is why it is so important that we are actually, as human beings, as teachers, as individuals, as people that are standing in a spotlight, are aware of what kind of energy we're putting out, because we are setting things into motion. So when we're talking about the dynamics in our dance studios, we don't want our people that we're teaching and helping to become dancers to be sad and tired and exhausted. We want to help them to be the best that they can be without judgment, meaning we're here to serve and not here to come because this is what we've been taught. And that is where awareness and the awareness of our own energy and the awareness of, I would say, the dynamics that are really flowing through the studio comes in so importantly. Like, it's so imperative, you know, we're not just showing up to teach, we're here to assess, to always learn, to be better. So,
yeah. I think oh, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Well, we are smart humans, and we pick up much more than what people say. In fact, 70-something% of our body, of our communication is nonverbal. So when you're walking into a dance studio and you have a leader, a dance teacher, a dance educator who is, potentially not putting out that energy, dancers feel it. And as artists, we realize that it is subjective, right? It's not, the fastest time wins the race. It's, who is more, there are many, many different factors. So it's so important that our educators understand that they're important. They create their space, and they create their space by both being okay with themselves and doing the work, but also being aware.
Yeah. And I think it's hard to feel important and feel like you really make a difference when you were trained to be a cog in the machine. And that's where we come into the just consistent, repetitive cycle of this is how I was taught, so that's how I'm going to teach. And it's not, as you said, it's not always a conscious decision. That's the way a lot of people's relationship is with dance and ballet, I think probably more often than other styles. But that's, you sort of find your place in that. And when you become an educator, you still feel, a little bit stuck in that. And like, you don't have a lot of agency. And we're here to tell you, you do. You have a ton of it, and you can break out of that wheel and break your students out of that wheel too, and uplift the entire community. And that takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of self-reflection on everybody's part, especially the educator, because you not only have to teach yourself how to do that work, but then you have to turn around and teach your students. And that is a lot. But I think that for the majority of educators, the reason they're doing what they do is because deep down, they really do care about making a difference. And so if you can tap into that and remember that you also are on your own journey to sort of figure out who you want to be in this system, it can make it a little bit easier, and it could give you that fire that maybe you're like, please don't put something else on my plate. I have enough to do already. Please don't tell me now I've got to work more on myself. I give everything to my dancers as it is. And now and it's like, yes, yes, yes. And this will not only make you a better educator, but it will just make you a better human. Like, we're talking about cultivating happier dancers. You're a dancer. You're always a dancer. Even if you're not still performing, you as a dance educator are a dancer, and you will be a happier person, period, if you start doing this stuff too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting also just to make sure that, educating, when we teach someone, when we know how to dance and we teach someone how to dance, there's a skill to teaching too. So we learn as dancers from our teachers how to do a tendu, right? But there is a skill, there's a lot to teaching that tendu other than just the tendu, right? So I think dance educators don't realize that and don't learn how to teach. They just teach what they learned. And I think it's important to continue this education for dance educators, to make the next generation a better place and happier place.
I want to quickly, just before we give some takeaways today, put something in here that, we as human beings, 95% of how we do everything every single day, how we think, feel, touch, experience, think, is 95% shown or put into by our subconscious mind. That's the how do you say that the best? German, English, hang on. It's basically our hardware, right? Like how we have been, these are all the stories, all the beliefs that have come in that have made us who we are. And 95% of that is really subconsciously directing us how we react, how we teach, how we show up, how we speak, talk, think. And I think when I learned that, it made such a big difference to me and in how I showed up, because all the work that we're doing is on the conscious, meaning on how dancers, look, how they, eat, everything on the outside. And we're not digging into what their belief system is. Like, we cannot outwork our limiting beliefs. We cannot muscle through what is in here. And for dance educators, the way you show up in the studio is a reflection of what is actually in your soul and in your belief system. And when we dig a little in there, and when we're holding up the mirror, and when we're looking at what we really want to create, when we're coming from a place of service and not from a place of fear, that is when we make that difference. That is when we're really giving this new generation something that they can give back to their audiences and to the next generation that's coming in. So I just wanted
Absolutely. Yeah.
Put that in there. Okay, Christine.
Okay.
Close
I'm
us out.
taking it away with some.
Take it away.
Okay, so we talked about a lot. We talked about the work that's ahead of us all. So how can we make sure that our dance studio dynamics are in the best interest of ourselves as educators and in the best interest of our dancers? Well, I've got 3 things for you to keep in mind as you move forward. One, Michelle and I recently talked with a former ballerina who got her PhD in sports psychology, Dr. Chelsea Parati, and she brought up a really great point that I think can be really helpful to us in this discussion. So you have to teach your students to be self-reflective, right? Sometimes this doesn't happen naturally. The majority of dancers have that kind of personality where they can kind of dig in, but you want to make sure that you're also helping them improve that skill, because that's going to help them on their journey moving forward to always reflect and check in with themselves and see what's going on. A great way to do this is to talk about performance in your classes, because what is performance but digging in and bringing something forward, right? So remember that when you're teaching your dancers how to perform, how to emote, how to find the storyline, how to connect with the story, how to bring that out, you're also teaching them how to look within, and that's so powerful. So if you're doing it already, great, keep going, right? And then just know that that's what's happening. So maybe bring it in more and talk to your dancers about it in that way, so they understand that that's what's going on too. The other thing that is number 2 that can be helpful is to get them into a routine of checking in with themselves, right? So one easy way to do this, you start every class with going around the room in one word, how are you feeling right now? Right? No judgment. We're just getting it out. We're just checking in. Tired, hungry, sad, lazy, sad, happy, whatever it is. Any one of those words, right? It doesn't matter what it is, just get them to check in, and then finish class the same way. Great. We've all had a great, class has ended. Before you leave the room, let's check in again. So you're getting them in that habit of connecting the physicality with what's going on in here, right? And that's the first thing. You can't sort of change what's happening in here if you don't know what's happening in here. So you want to get your dancers into a routine of really checking in and being able to name what they're feeling. And sometimes it takes a little bit for them to do, but keep at it and they'll get better at it. And the third thing, and I think this is so important and so often overlooked, is educators, you need to set boundaries for yourself. You need to care for yourself. If you are leading by example, which we know you are, you need to care for yourself first. You need to put your mask on the plane before you help your neighbor, right? So please set boundaries for your time. Please make sure that you are getting alone time to decompress, connect with other educators, talk about the stresses, share your victories. It's so very important that you are caring for yourself so that when you step into the studio, you really are arriving as your best self. So those are the 3 takeaways: performance, check-ins, and self-care.
Gosh, I love that. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so we also have in the show notes a downloadable PDF. You can have access to a few questions. These are journal prompts, basically, that will help you to see where you're at right now. That gives you a little bit of a bigger picture. Take that time, set like 15 minutes aside, have a cup of coffee, tea, green juice, whatever is your jam. And take that time when we're talking about self-care, right? Light a candle and make that for yourself and see where you're at, determine where you want to go. And that will be your first step in really cultivating happier dancers in your studio. So thank you so much for listening, guys. Loved our chat today, ladies. So here is how you can help us. If you really enjoyed this episode, if whatever inspired you, share it on Instagram, share it on TikTok, Facebook, wherever your jam is, tag us and we will get back to you. We will reshare. And if there's anything you want us to talk about, let us know. Like, you can always talk to either of us at any given point. We're sending you so much love. Till next time.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.